Hi, Alessia. Thank you so much for joining us today. Why don't we get started by who is Alessia and how Code and Wonder started?
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much for having me. So, hi everyone. My name is Alessia, like you said. I'm the co-founder of Code and Wonder. So, we're a digital agency, remote first, but I'm based in London. And how we started? So, we started 9 years ago now, uh, a long while.
Nice.
And back then, before starting Code and Wonder, I used to work as a project manager in another digital agency here in London. And my co founder worked as a designer and full stack developer in a separate digital agency in London. So, what happened is that the digital agency that my co founder used to work for went into administration. And that meant that there were lots of projects left halfway done, and the clients weren't quite sure how to finish them. And so they asked him, he would freelance and finish the projects. And that's when he called me being like, hey, maybe now is the time. Why don't we start something? We kept talking about starting something together or a digital agency. And I need someone to help me manage all the projects. So I gave my resignation, and that's kind of how it started. So it's a little bit of a different story compared to maybe other agencies. I find traditionally majority of people start by freelancing and then they get lots of work and they get more people in, and that's how kind of the agency grows or gets started. While we went full in, so we're very, very lucky that we kind of already had clients because there were all these projects that were half done and needed finishing. So we picked those up, finished the projects, and they were quite good clients that then they stayed as well. And I guess a bit of luck, a bit of good timing, right people, right place. And that's how Code and Wonder was born.
Oh, nice. Such a particular story. That's really nice. And especially when you had a task basically to deliver something great that was not finished off and the clients were having some sentiments around the situation already. So such an interesting story. And what is your day-to-day role at Code and Wonder at this moment?
I mean, co-founder means lots of different things. So my answer might actually change depending which month it is that you ask me. But generally speaking, I do mainly account management. So talking to all of our clients, making sure that all the projects are on track. I do a lot of the networking and sales. So a lot of the first calls that we have with potential leads, that's mainly done by me. And then on the development side, I oversee all of the Webflow builds. So making sure that everything is up to scratch and best practices are in place. So it's a little bit across the board, kind of, okay, the sales and the lead generation bit together with the proposal making. And then I guess I don't get as involved in design. That's mainly my co-founder who deals
Hmm.
with that. And then, yeah, overseeing the build as well.
Great.
So
Yeah,
a little
a
bit of
lot to do.
everything. Yes.
A lot to do. So in the agency, like as the agency grows, building predictable processes is key. So in this journey, in the beginning, and I'm sure that when you started, it was a bit chaotic based on kind of what you described, what the starting of your company was. So what process of system did you implement that had the largest payoff early on, maybe still today?
I feel like it's maybe a bit of a basic one, but sometimes overseen, especially at the beginning, it's just task management. Because I imagine, especially if you're starting as a solo founder or as a freelancer, you might say yes to everything. So any
Hmm.
project that comes in, any conversation with the client, it's like, yes, of course I can do it. It's like, when can you deliver it? Oh, next week, sure. And then you end up saying next week to all of your clients, and then realize that actually you don't have the time to fit everything in. So having a really good task management, and that it's based on one person up to, even if you have a large team, it becomes very important to see who's free, who's has too much on and how to distribute all the work across your team. So I feel like that's probably one of my favorite tools, maybe because of my background as a project manager as well. That's kind of where I live. And when we first started, we did everything on Notion. So we had all of our notes, all of our calendars. And then quite a few years ago, we switched to ClickUp. So now everything lives in ClickUp, and we share a lot of the task, a lot of the views with our clients as well. So we have that transparency with the client. So they have visibility of what we're working on, what's in progress, what's blocked, and have that discussion with them. I mean, processes are super important in my opinion, especially they make your life easier, basically. Instead of trying to reinvent the wheel every single time you have a conversation with a client, it's like, oh, how should I do it this way? If you have a step-by-step process, which, you know, it can be flexible. You don't necessarily have to follow all of it every single time. But if you have at least a rough process, that helps in every part of the project. So from the initial call, what kind of questions do you need answered, to scope the project, all the way to how are we going to plan the project throughout, task management. Also, one thing that we need to improve is when we finish a project, what happens, getting those testimonials, getting those quotes from the client, the feedback. So that could be a process in itself as well. Nice.
We also came to a point in the agency that we are also considering Notion. Notion was also our go-to tool from the beginning. Then at some point, especially when we wanted to have like a client dashboard to share with the client, and we wanted to have a timeline that was a single timeline, but the client would not be able to see everything, because it's not just like confidentially or we don't want to be transparent. It's just a matter of like some steps doesn't matter to the client. They don't want to see like the tiny steps that all our team members go through. They want to see like the general thing. And Notion still is a pain to do that. Most of the times we have to duplicate timelines. So we've been there.
That was that was the main reason why we switched to ClickUp. It was, we wanted a calendar that shows, for example, for me, all of my tasks throughout all of the clients and all of the projects, but then still be able to share just the project view with the client.
Yeah.
And you can do that. And I think they fixed it now. So I think they introduced quite a few new features since we swapped, which fixed our issues, but we kind of never swapped back.
Yeah.
But yeah, sharing that singular view and not everything, that was kind of crucial.
Many agencies hit like a plateau. So as they are growing in the beginning, it's kind of, if you are comparing like how you scale year over year, it's easy to see the numbers like getting bigger. But after like 5-6 years, you see those numbers maybe stagnating. So do you remember in this 90-year journey when you faced one of those plateau times, and how do you got past over it?
I mean, right in the middle of it, it was COVID. So it wasn't quite a plateau, but more of a nosedive down, where we had quite a few projects, quite a few clients, and, you know, it was going well. And then all of a sudden, everything stopped. No one knew what was happening. So all of our clients put a pause on all of their retainers, all on their projects that were ongoing, because no one knew what was happening. So that was a bit of a scary moment, a bit of a like down moment more than a plateau. Yeah. But that also gave us the chance to just take a pause and review what we were offering. And because we had so much time on our hands, just upskill and learn new things. And that's actually when I came across Webflow and started using Webflow. So actually it's thanks to COVID that we're so involved with Webflow now. Silver lining somewhere in there. And we added that as part of our offering as an agency, and it took off. And now mainly majority of our work is now on Webflow. So we completely pivoted in a way during those years.
Yeah, that was a good outcome from such a dark time, I would imagine.
Yes.
I was lucky, quote unquote, to start during COVID. So I don't really face those challenges of having a business pre and post COVID. So I can't really compare, but I can only imagine how challenging those times were. So before COVID, you were also developing websites?
Yes, mainly on WordPress.
On
So
WordPress.
it was WordPress and full stack development and design. After COVID, we basically swapped WordPress with Webflow.
Webflow.
So now we do Webflow, still some full stack development, React and whatnot, and design.
Besides exploring Webflow and start working with Webflow, what else changed on your agency because of COVID? Any approach like to sales or kind of positioning?
Yes, quite a few things changed actually. The team has always been remote first, hence the name Code and Wonder, because we always push people to go and see the world, and you don't have to be stuck in a room in order to, design or develop. And it's actually like taking that inspiration from the world around you that I find very beneficial. But having said that, before COVID, a majority of us were in the office. So we had like full-time team that were in the office, more of a traditional quote unquote agency. And then obviously during COVID, such a tough time, we had to let go of some of our team members, sadly. And after COVID, we started working more and more with freelancers. So now we have kind of a pool of trusted freelancers that we pull in, and has become kind of our Code and Wonder family. But that's a little bit of a restructuring of the team and of the team structure there. And in terms of sales, I mean, majority of the leads pre-COVID came from me going to networking events. So I went to 2 networking events per week sometimes, always out there chatting to people, mingling. And then obviously COVID happened and no one could see each other and all the in-person events kind of stopped, and a lot of it turned to online. And on one side, it's nice because you can reach people that are on the other side of the world and you can still network and mingle with them. I do miss the in-person feel. And then I feel like now there's a lot less in-person events generally across the industry, but I should try and go to them a bit more to get that in-person feel again. It feels now majority of in-person events I go to is just Webflow meetups and, having fun with my friends.
Yeah.
Rather than networking.
Yeah, that's true. A lot of in the event industry, a lot of change, especially when are those type of events where they are super interesting or they could be super interesting, but people just don't have the budget for. So they just keep like the online. But I share the same feeling. I miss the in-person events where it's not just kind of the chatting. Not to compare that, also in person is much easier to chat with multiple people than like an online event, but also all the environment about like being careful about the place you pick and the amenities that you have for that event. All that plays a lot of in the quality of the event. So I miss those where you feel like something different when you go to an in-person event.
Yeah, it's a lot easier to create connections, I find, because it's the bits in between the event. It's like going for a drink, or I mean, most networking events, they had free food and booze.
Yeah.
So it's just like, just having a good time. Now everything is on Zoom or whatever, and as soon as the event is finished, everyone closes the window, and that's the end of it. There's no after party or drinks afterwards and anything like that. So it's a bit harder.
Yeah, definitely. So maybe that's one of the things that changed, but one thing that I would like to talk with you is retainers. So I know that you also enjoy talking about that. So, and that's one of the main pain points, I think, in agencies. It's like sales related, like how to get new clients, but also if there was a better retainer strategy, maybe finding or sales will be not so hard for agencies to build that predictable income. So what can you share? What can we learn from you in terms of retainers, especially in like web design, Webflow development, agency context?
Sure. Yes, I'd say that at the moment our work is, well, we try to keep a balance of like 50% retainers, 50% just one-off projects. I find that's a nice balance to have. So keeps the work interesting because you're working on new projects, but also have that ongoing. I mean, it's good for the business, but it's also nice to create that deeper relationship with the clients and have that ongoing retainer in the background that keeps going as well. To be honest, we always had retainer from day one. At the time, I think we called them just maintenance contract. I think that comes from WordPress probably, because WordPress, the type of work that we did was all custom themes. We didn't use Elementor or anything like that. Everything was custom coded specifically for the client and custom hosted because of their request, which also meant that you need that maintenance contract to go with it because plugins and WordPress security is just a nightmare. And then we took on Webflow and that all changed, right? Because you don't really need a maintenance retainer because Webflow hosting takes care of all of that. But what we started doing is really, I know sounds so cliche, but becoming a partner to our clients, which meant we're not just maintaining the site, we're growing the site with them and helping their team grow as a team, as like the work that they do and eventually the site as well. So our retainers cover design, development, analytics setup if they need it, or sometimes even things that we don't officially offer, but we're happy to help our clients with. Like copywriting, video editing is not necessarily our core offering, but we can do on an off basis. So we basically were the go-to team for anything they might need. And that often happens where they send me a message as like, oh, we need this in like 2 days, but we don't know, like, do you by any chance have any idea how to edit this video? And it's like, yeah, sure, I can swap that image on the video. And they're so grateful for these kind of non-official offerings that we can help with. But every retainer that we do is tailored to the client. And I think that's one thing which makes it a little bit harder to set up, but also more flexible. And I feel like the clients are happy that we're creating something tailored to them and to their needs. So all of our retainers are based on hours and skills. So before setting up a retainer, we have a call with the client, and most of the time we create the site for them, and we just go over their requirements of what they want to achieve throughout the year. What are the new campaigns that they want to set up, new ideas, new iterations, what it might be. And all of this can be super top level, and it doesn't have to be set in stone, because unlike fixed projects, which we ask for a fixed scope, retainers are based on hours. So you don't necessarily need a fixed scope. We just need to know roughly the amount of work that they will need throughout the year. And then we say, okay, for your needs, we recommend X amount of hours per month. And those hours could be used in anything you need, from design, development, training your team, and things like that. So it's super flexible in that regard.
Yeah, that's nice. That's an unusual approach. What I most commonly see is like you get design, dev, and you have like 40 hours per month or 60 hours per month, and that's it. It's not very common for me to see like if you want video production or if you want copywriting, we can add those, because again, that, as you mentioned, that creates a lot of complexity. Like you have to find the people, you have to find the right people, you have to create a strategy for prices for each one of those services that you create. And yeah, most people struggle with 1 or 2 services rather than like 5 or 6.
I guess that's the benefit of having like a bigger team with lots of different skill sets, and then have the ability to pull people in if anything is needed. Like I said, it's not like the video editing, we would only do basic ones. We wouldn't do like full on production, because that's, like you said, that's so much planning and so much more involved. But if it's like, you know, just throwing something in Final Cut Pro or Premiere Pro, whatever your software you're using, and do a quick edit. For us, it's quick. For the client, it's a nightmare. So that's an easy win. So being flexible, I think it really helps. But I guess one thing that a lot of people struggle is, once you have the client, it might be easier to be flexible, but it's getting the client to sign a 6 months agreement, which is the hard bit. And to be honest, for me, the best way of selling is not to sell. Most of the retainers that we have, the client asked us if we would offer the possibility of keep working together instead of them trying to find someone else or trying to hire in-house. So majority of the retainers came from the client. And I find more and more now, especially when we quote for fixed projects, maybe they're looking for a migration or a redesign, they often ask, what happens next? So after you deliver the whole new site to us, are you still available to help us to create new pages and grow the site, or train our new team members, for example? That's something that I get asked more and more now. And I give like the basic pricing, but I always say, yes, we do offer it. And this is like a rough ballpark of what it might cost, but let's not worry about this because you might not need it. So I'm actually underselling it, or like trying to say, you know, we'll set everything up for you, see how it goes, and then if you need us, we'll discuss retainers, but you might not need it. So I guess it's the opposite of selling.
No, but I think it's a good approach. Hard selling, I don't think it's a good approach in our industry. I think it's a lot of like relationship management, and at the end, they will love working with you. So it only makes sense to continue. And of course, they want to know from the beginning that they will find a partner that they can be there for the long term if needed, but you have like half the work done from the beginning. So they know that you will be able to continue working with them, but you're like, don't worry about it. And we'll be there, but we'll figure out a way.
And it's funny, it happened before where they came for like a shorter retainer to train their team. So we did that, and they're like, okay, now we're going to see how we do on our own. And then they spent a month on their own, and then they came back being like, no, maybe it's good to have you.
Yeah.
Can you come back, please? Yeah.
No, that's lovely to when that happens. And I'm curious. So when the client, for example, signs for X amount of hours per month, if they don't use all of those hours, do they go to the next month, or like they are just like gone?
So we used to roll them over. The problem with that is it's hard to schedule time. So imagine you have a team of 3 developers and they all have different retainers attached to them or that they're looking after. If you start accumulating hours, then everything shifts and it becomes really hard to maintain quality and a consistent amount of work. So we now started not rolling those hours. So we always keep track, and we always have weekly check-ins with the clients to make sure that they have enough tasks to cover all the hours. And if they don't, we suggest of improvement. So we'll do a bit of an audit of the site and say, you know, we still have a day left in your retainer. Shall we just review the site and come up with a few suggestions on how to improve it? So that way the client never feels like they're losing hours and they're like missing out, but all of those gets used throughout the month. But yeah, we don't roll them over anymore.
Nice. Yeah, that's one of the struggles also that I found on a few retainers that we had, where the client signed up for a few hours, but then down the line, like 4, 5, 6 months, they really don't use those hours anymore because there was like a lot of work in the beginning, but then it started slowing down. And yeah, it's hard to manage when we have just too many hours getting on top of each other. So what advice would you give to someone that is just starting an agency, maybe some things that you've did in the beginning that you wouldn't do today, and want to build it and scale like a recurring revenue business?
I mean, I find the first thing is super obvious, but if you want a retainer at the end, offer it at the end of the project. I find a lot of people say, oh, I wish I had all these retainers, but then they sign up for fixed projects and they don't offer anything afterwards.
Right.
So I find the client can't ask what they don't know. So first is offer it and tell people that that's something that you do. The other, while running the retainer, we always set up a Slack channel with the clients that do use Slack internally. So we're always available in a way to communicate quickly. Any questions I can quickly answer. And then if they have any incoming tasks, we'll create a ClickUp ticket and schedule that. So it's not always on call necessarily, but always there to answer questions if needed. And that, I feel like that builds trust because it feels someone that they can rely on. And the second, it builds that rapport and that knowledge that you're there to help and you're part of the team. And the same way that they can message a coworker and be like, hey, do you have a minute tomorrow to talk about this? They can message you at the same time. So it's really becoming part of their team and someone that they can rely on and appreciate at the end.
Yeah, absolutely. Now more on the tech side of things, you mentioned that from COVID, you started working with Webflow as a tool. Do you also work with Framer or just Webflow at this point?
We do some Framer projects. I'd say majority is Webflow at the moment, but we did do quite a few Framer projects as well.
And how do you decide which one is kind of the best to a specific project?
A lot of the time it's actually the client who requests the tool, and they did their research and they said, oh, you know what, I really like Webflow. I want our new site to be on Webflow, or oh, I really like Framer. I want the new site to be on Framer. If they're on the fence, we look at their team structure. So if the team is majority designers, then Framer might be more familiar to them to maintain the site. If it's mixed or mainly content managers, then we would look at Webflow specifically. The majority of the time, the client did their homework and was like, we decided on this, and we can always give an open opinion if we think they made the right choice or not. But yeah, I think that's the split if it's more design oriented or content and developer oriented.
Yeah, I like that approach. I never thought about that on like thinking about the client structure and what should be the best tool for them. A good approach. How do you personally see AI's role in the future of digital agents? I think this is kind of one of the main topics for the past year that agencies, maybe freelancers as well, started thinking about, like at what point I'm going to be replaced, without wanting to be super negative. But what do you see the AI's role in the future of agencies?
I mean, I always see AI as a tool and something to speed up processes or improve processes. I feel like it's a threat if you don't embrace it. So if you're completely negative about it and be like, no, AI is going to replace my job, I hate it, I don't want to even look at it, then it will replace your job. But if you embrace it, it could give you superpowers in a way, because all of a sudden you're more efficient, faster, you can achieve more, and that's actually the person who's going to replace you, not necessarily AI. So that's my personal view on the topic. For agency specific, I mean, we use quite a few AI tools. The majority of the time is either for processes or copy content writing, or the other side is development. So we really embraced AI in development. We have full stack developers and they embraced it as well. So there's the whole vibe coding trend. I don't necessarily see it, for us, I don't see it as vibe coding necessarily, because it is developers using AI development.
Exactly.
So they can triple check all of the code that gets output it by the AI. And sometimes the AI hallucinates, or it goes into a looping cycle that can't get out of it, and that's where the developer can step in and detangle it themselves. So that's super useful. That's more empowering the developers versus replacing them altogether. And that's one way that we've embraced AI. The other side, which I found super helpful for me specifically, writing all the proposals, is proposal and requirement gathering. I often now have AI kind of overshadow all of my first calls with clients so that I can purely focus on the conversation and don't have to like quickly write all my notes. Right. I just focus on the conversation, ask all the questions that I wanted to ask, make sure that I cover all of the points, and let AI do all the summary and the bullet list of requirements, which then get fed into the proposal as well, which it means that the proposal is a lot more detailed because it captured all of the requirements mentioned, and it's not just me trying to remember what the conversation was. So I find in that sense, AI has been super helpful in helping me just remember everything, cover everything in that first call, and have that a lot more efficient compared to what it was.
Nice. And we talked about how you apply AI in the development, also in like kind of operations. And on the design side, you use it for anything?
Mainly content. So not so much design or layout or anything like that. Is more image generation. So if the client doesn't have any images, for example, and they don't necessarily want to use stock imaging, we can leverage AI to create some interesting shapes or images, or depending what the brand is. We recently used it to create videos. The client had all of static headshot of the team. They have a huge team, over 200 people, and they wanted to do something more fun, but they also don't want to organize a whole photo shoot for the whole company to get like a little video or a little thing. So we run all of the headshots through AI video generation and created little videos for each one of them, which looks exactly like them. For moving or drinking coffee or doing something fun, and then uploaded that as a hover to the website. So that's another fun way that you can introduce or create more assets or images and videos for the client without the client having to spend lots of money on video production and things like that. But that's majority of the design that we used AI for. We don't necessarily use AI for full page designs or layouts or anything like that just yet.
Yeah, I still find that AI doesn't do a good job. Maybe it does a good job for mood boarding and like those early stages of design, but actually replacing part of the design process right now, I don't feel like it does the job properly.
Yeah, mood boarding is a good one. Just getting inspiration or see what it comes up with. I found majority of it's not that great, but at least it makes you feel good about yourself, and maybe that's a plus.
Yeah, for sure. Another topic that I would like to discuss with you is like in terms of approach to websites. I think we share that same like thinking of websites as a group of components that together they build a page, not the other way around, like thinking just about pages and then like break those pages and turn them like into components just so you can tell the client that they have something to use by themselves. How do you usually approach that? Do you take that component-based approach from the design stage, or is something that once the website is built, you start kind of thinking about variables of the components and all that?
First of all, design system is a huge topic of mine. Like, I love talking about design systems and approach to design systems and components in Webflow. And the way that I would approach it is design first. So the designer creates the whole design of the website because we don't necessarily want to limit creativity or having the designer have to like triple check or everything is componentized or componentizable, if that's a word.
Yeah.
And then once the design is in review phase, we'll just double check that how much of it could be divided into blocks or components. And it might be that there are some adjustments, but this all happens still in design phase, so that when the client reviews it and approves it, we know that it can be easily built. And by easily, it doesn't mean that it has to be a super boring design. It just means that we have those blocks in place. And then when we move to development, we have a boilerplate that it's internal to the agency, although I'm looking to release it at the end of the year, so stay tuned for the new boilerplate. And that has all of the variables and like fonts and spacing and typography and colors and all of those that you can change according to the design and the brand of the client. And I always find there's two approaches to design systems or component system in Webflow. So there's what I think Timothy Ricks calls like open components. So these are the ones that you can nest inside of each other, and it's all based on component slots, and you slot those components inside. And then there's the other approach, which is like a closed component. So this relies more on props rather than the nested or the slots. So it might be a whole section. So for example, a whole hero section, or text and image, or image and text, and kind of all of these sections with all the properties on the side. So pros and cons to both. What I often tend to do is a mix. So I would use the open components to build the pages, and you can always wrap kind of the components and create a closed components based on those open components to make it easier for the client. And the level of closed components often depends by the technicality of the client itself and what their requirements are. Because if they're a less technical client who just wants to drag and drop sections in and maybe has a more limited or rather more strict design system, then majority of those would be set up as closed components, and then the client can manage those when creating new pages. Right. But if it's a client who's maybe a little bit more technical and the design has so many variations that closed components will become like hundreds of them, then we would train them on open components so they have full flexibility and can build those different layouts themselves. So again, it depends on the client and what their team is and their capabilities in-house. And then we would decide whether to lean more on closed or open components depending on what their needs are.
Nice. That's again a great approach. Like you have like the team in mind who's going to be behind it, because there's no point of building something super fancy that is good to show on portfolio, but then like the client is like,
can't use it.
Yep, can't use it. Welcome to WordPress again.
Yeah.
Nice. So we are getting close to the end. I would be like interested to understand like what is next for Code and Wonder, what people that are listening to this episode, what they can expect for, what is your vision that you're comfortable sharing for the next 24 months, 12 months, whatever that might be.
Yeah, I don't think I plan for 24 months in advance.
And in this age, who can?
Yeah, exactly. As like AI would have transformed the world in 6 months anyway. So who knows?
I'm asking this question, but I only plan for the next 6 months, because other than that, it's already too much.
Yeah. So let's focus in the next 6 months, let's say. We are doubling down on code components. So something that we're planning and releasing, maybe a little surprise for the community, is a library of code components that people can use. I mentioned our boilerplate of component system, which I'd like to release to the community as well. It's just a question of documentation and getting everything in a row, which it's the 20% that it's actually the 80% of the work, that bit that it's missing, and fitting that in together with client work and agency business growth, all of that sometimes is a bit of a challenge. But those two things I'm super excited with, that hopefully will release, if not by the end of the year, in the new year for sure. And we are going to create a lot of more content and webinars and more videos, more to come.
And one closing question that I like to ask to any guest. So hopefully there are some people that are watching this and they are able to help in any way. What is one thing that you are struggling with right now in the agency or in the business that you would like to get some light?
I think me personally is social media and content creation. I mean, I love it, but it's the time that I'm missing. So, I'd love to release a video every week and have webinars every quarter or even more often and so forth. So it's just figuring all of that out and actually put the time together to plan it out. Together with social media, I'm so terrible at social media. I'll be online for a week being like, yes, I'm scheduling all my posts. Everything is planned. Everything is out. And then that week is gone and I haven't planned the following week. Yeah. So then I go silent for like 3 weeks in a row. And then there's a spike of another week and then silent again. So that is my personal challenge, is keeping myself consistent in scheduling stuff and putting more content out there. I would say that's my number one.
If it makes you feel better, you're not alone.
Yes, thank you.
It's a constant struggle. Even with all the tools that you have for scheduling and all that, you still have to make the time to make those scheduling work.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes that's the challenge, is kind of making sure that you have everything to, at some point, you do the scheduling. I think it's not the scheduling part that is a problem. It's like finding the right time to have everything prepared. So when the scheduling comes, you have everything ready.
I mean, we use Buffer for all the scheduling. We have, it's all there. I have a script for videos. I've actually recorded a bunch of videos, but I haven't edited them. So yeah, it's a whole thing.
Yeah, it's hard. Props to those people that are super consistent. They are able to make it. I can't.
Yeah, I feel like sometimes it's taken for granted. I was like, oh yeah, those people just have a video every week, and it's like, oh, it's only sometimes a 10-second video. Like, it's so easy to make. No. How wrong.
Yeah. I think we just find it for the lack of experience, and everyone a little bit like the influencer life. It feels like it's so easy. You just have to make a video, but it's much more than that in the background. Yeah. So yeah, with these small experiences, we can start relating a little bit with those type of influencers.
For sure.
All right, Alessia, that's it. Thank you so much for taking the time. I can't wait to chat again soon on kind of how the goals are going. So thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. It's been so much fun. So thank you.
Thank you.